To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Meeting will now come to order.
Michelle, there doesn't seem to be any audio on the Zoom call.
It's coming back.
Okay, thanks.
First order of business, public announcements. Details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com. Nomination papers are now available and are due by September 3rd for the November 2nd municipal election. There are 2 seats for town council, and please contact the town clerk for details. Summer concerts in the park are held each Friday from 6 to 7:30, July 23rd through August 27th. The town office and all non-emergency services will be closed on Monday, September 6th, in observance of Labor Day. Second order of business is public hearings. To hear from the public on a request from Sappy North America Incorporated for a renewal to operate a solid waste facility on company-owned land off of Route 201 in the town of Fairfield. Are there anybody that wishes to speak or talk about it? Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jim Brooks. I'm the environmental manager of the Sappy Mill. We're here today, as just was reported. We applied for a renewal for a solid waste permit for our landfill. For those of you who don't know much about the landfill, we have, it sits on about 80 acres or so. We have 14 cells. Out of the 14, 2 of them have not been built yet, but they've been permitted.
Right.
All our licenses are in good standing with the DEP. We've had no leaks over the years. We monitor aggressively, and I think I gave you a bunch of paper, but every year we have to publish the results of our water quality monitoring of all our wells. And outside of that, in the packet I gave you, the small packet, I included some maps that show the location and what we're doing, and in some cases, some of the detail of what we're doing. So I did want to give you a heads up that this summer, we're closing all or parts of 4 of the cells. I think it's cell 5 and 6 and 9 and 10. Cells 6 and cells 9 still have some life into them, so they'll be partially closed. But periodically we have to do this. I think the last time we did it was a couple of years ago. There's quite a lot to it. The different, you can see the construction detail. We hire a local firm, Vining. They do a wonderful job. Very, very, very tight on all of their standards. I've been extremely pleased. I used to work at the Bucksport Mill. I used to manage the landfill there. Kind of wish we had them over there. That's how good they are. With that, I'm certain to, I can answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions?
Steph.
I do.
Yes, go ahead, Steph.
I was glad, first of all, I want to thank you. I did read the small print. It is very inclusive, and I found parts very interesting. But anyways, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I had the question, before even going in there, on what is used for your covers, and then I was pleased to see your diagram. So then that left me with another question. There are 7 layers to their covers. So can anything be built on top of this landfill after the covers are completed?
Unless we get licensed.
So you'd have to have...
Yeah, and I don't believe so. It's not designed to go further up.
Okay, because it's not like our landfill in town where the solar field is going to go in,
Right,
so,
no.
okay. I was just curious.
So there's a diagram in there that talked about the base layers.
Yes.
Yeah.
You had base, and that has a lot of sand in it, and that's all designed so you can put weight on it.
Yeah.
But the top is designed to handle some weight because you need to get tractors up there to mow it
Right.
and things like that, but not anything else. And I think the DEP frowns upon it. There were a couple cases back in the 80s and 90s where they were permitting people to go up some landfills, and they had shears where they slid, part of it slid. So I think there's a limit to what you can do to a landfill.
I believe that was the Norwich Walk landfill that did that.
Well, there was another one too that people didn't realize down in Lewiston.
Yeah. So anyways, I was very pleased with
Thank you.
this, and I did go through both books.
All
So
the more power to you, because
I didn't read the fine print.
I
all those
went, when I
reports.
finally got it, I went over it over a course of 3 or 4 evenings, and put me to sleep every night.
And you do this every year?
We do. We hire a firm to do it, but painstakingly, I have to go through everything to make sure it's okay.
Wow. And I was also very pleased to see at the end of this book, you did allude to our situation in town with the water quality
Yes.
out in the center, so,
Yep.
in Shawmut. So I was pleased to see that. Thank you.
Yep.
No, you did an excellent job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I read that too, the historical data on it too. Was there any fractures into the well water, groundwater, or
No,
no?
no, none at all. So we have a series of wells, and the number keeps changing because we keep adding new cells. So some are surface. We're in a typical main soil profile, geological profile, you'll have different layers of soil. And around here, you're going to have kind of a silt loam over a marine clay. You probably all have seen that. It's called blue. And then at some point in time, you have bedrock. So we have some wells up top. They're near the surface, and then we have some that are sort of midway, and then we have some in the bedrock itself to see if there's anything coming down in. And they vary from where they are. It's a location that the DEP helps us sort out and work
So you're
with them.
testing around these, around
The perimeter.
the perimeter of it? How far do you go out from that for your testing?
I don't think anything that's more than a couple hundred yards.
Okay. You don't go,
But-
so you don't go outside of the perimeter of the,
We would see, this whole thing's designed to see any sheet flow going off-site. So the groundwater up there, it flows down towards the river. That's the direction of the flow. So,
yeah, because I did read about the wood lot there where the salt got in the groundwater
Yes,
and things like that.
yes.
You moved it and things
Yeah.
like that, and plus the arsenic and other stuff too, so.
yep.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay.
So, in upcoming years, when we come up for renewal, will you still like to have this type of package? I mean, I think in the past, we've only given you the short one, but this year I threw it in and all, in case you wanted to see it, read it.
I think every third year would be good, because we go on a 3-year rotational basis. And so if you started like this year and then 3 years down, you'll get maybe a different mix of people. But it is, or at least give Michelle a copy so that anybody interested could look at it. It is informational. I didn't know how many wells you had. I didn't realize how much testing you actually were doing, and I found out in here. And I think it's a good resource for at least the town manager to have, in case questions arise.
We could always accept it if you have the ability to send it electronically. And
Yep,
then therefore,
we
if we
do.
needed a paper copy, then we could do that, because oftentimes that's what we'll do too, is we'll provide electronic copies, to the council, and then if they need a paper copy, then we'll produce one of those for them afterwards, because we understand and appreciate the expense that goes into generating all of this paperwork and all the, but, I mean, you're in the paper making
Yeah,
business, so. It should
I
be
was
okay.
at the photocopy of,
They do submit a thumb drive that comes with this.
So we can do that.
I just thought Christine was a hard taskmaster. She was telling me I had to do this, and so,
You asked. I gave him the historical information.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody from Zoom? No.
No, sir.
I consider the public hearing now closed. Third order of business was public comments, 3-minute limit or equivalents. Members of the public may email comments or counsel at info@fairfieldme.com by 4 p.m. day of the meeting on any topic or agenda item. Items may be read at this time. Do you have any items that came in? Nothing. Okay. Moving on to the fourth order of business then. Reports from staff and committee. Town manager report.
All right, so we haven't met in a month, so it's a long one, so bear with me. So on August 3rd, I met with the contractor for the fire training facility. Site work on Industrial Road location has started. Public Works has removed the required amount of material and has started installing the appropriate film material for the foundation. We were notified by Somerset County that they had approved the $150,000 grant for this project. We are still waiting on the details of that award, but we'll have more of that for you once we get that officially. Also, on August 3rd, the Fairfield Economic Community Development Committee met, and I'm sure Stephanie will update you on that. August 4th, I met with Dave Pelton, the Real Estate Development Director for KB Cap. The meeting was facilitated by the Mid-Maine Chamber so that we could discuss the town farm feasibility study. We also discussed other potential partnership projects regarding affordable housing throughout the community. On August 4th, I also took part in the Kennebec Hydro Dam Tour in Winslow. We were able to see a demonstration on how the fish lift works, or how it's supposed to work. It's not currently in operation because if they lift the fish, there isn't any place for them to go, so they're waiting for the installation of fish lifts at Shawmut and Weston. There's more information on some of this stuff later to come. And then on August 5th, Waterville IT facilitated a meeting with local managers and Spectrum to discuss how they could best build out their cable network to provide internet services. One of the things the pandemic has proven is that how important internet is everywhere in our community, and there are still places in our community in which you can't get it. Spectrum is looking for municipalities to invest in their system and take ownership so that the town then in turn pays Spectrum direct for servicing the entire town, and then we in turn would bill our municipal residents either through independent third-party billing, through their tax bills, what have you. Based upon the way their current program looks, I kind of deferred and said it wasn't really anything we were interested in at this time. I think the company's trying to get ahead of the IRP money so that municipalities can invest in broadband, and that's where they were looking to get a piece of that. August 10th through the 13th, I attended the Maine Town and City Managers New England Management Institute up at Sugarloaf. That was a great training, brought back a good number of things from that. August 17th, the Board of Directors met at KB Cog. Their RLF fund is in really good shape right now, plus they do have funds available to assist local businesses with whether expansion needs or some of it is still the COVID relief money, so certainly if anybody has any issues and would like to know more, to contact us. August 27th, a bunch of the managers in the region met with Representative Brad Farron regarding the state and federal process regarding the Shawmut Dam relicensing process. There's a copy of the most recent submission to the DEP regarding the water quality assessment in your packet. I have the DEP draft document if you would wish me to send that to you electronically. We also have a paper copy in the office. This process is still very active and being monitored closely. An email was sent to council members yesterday regarding a tour that Sappy has 2 possible attendance dates for. Please let me know if you would like to attend either of those, because we'll also have to get it properly posted and I need to get it to the town of Winslow. We received official notifications that Gregory Disposal has applied to DEP for a permit to operate a solid waste transfer station on Industrial Road. Now is the time when the town council would need to discuss whether or not you would like to do a public informational meeting with DEP, with just Gregory's. Do you want a formal public hearing? Keeping in mind that this project will be subject to a local public hearing during the planning board conditional use process. You could also submit questions to DEP, which they could answer, because while we might decide to do our own public hearing, we can't necessarily make DEP attend, even though we could invite them. Their permitting process, of course, is separate than ours. I've had several meetings with Kyle from Gregory's Disposal over the last few weeks where we were working on things and answering questions. They've had a preliminary meeting with the planning board. So really what we need to know is whether or not you want an official public hearing, or if you would like me to facilitate some sort of public informational meeting in which we invite DEP. The official public hearing request could go into DEP and they could still deny it. It has a lot of legal and financial implications when you request a formal public hearing, but we could probably do the public informational thing and get Mike Parker from the DEP to attend to answer questions. So I'll be looking to know what it is that you want to do with that, and we can go back to this under other council business, because we've got another thing probably we'll have to check in on too. And then also, information was received today on how the municipality can request IRP funds from the state. This is we're a non-entitlement municipality, so these are the funds coming in from the feds, used to offset revenue shortfalls regarding the pandemic. I'm thinking at your next meeting, we'll schedule a workshop session to discuss how you would like to use these funds and what we would like to set them aside for. We received 50% this year and another 50% in a year. And then also, the fire chief and I have been paying close attention to the dynamics of the State of Maine Department of Health and Human Services issued emergency routine technical rule requiring healthcare workers to be vaccinated against COVID-19. The new rule became effective on August 12, 2021. This rule, as it is written, includes all EMS across the entire state, thus affecting all of the fire department staff. If staff members choose not to get vaccinated, it could lead to personnel shortages for us. This is a conversation that everybody everywhere is having. You need to be aware of it because it will evolve quickly, and if there are changes, we will keep you informed of that. But it is going to be a big piece for us over the next couple of months. So, and that is it for me.
Okay. Stephanie.
Okay. As Michelle said, the Economic, Community, and Development Committee met on August 3rd. And in July, we had tabled a facade application. So on August 3rd, it was for the Masonic Building. A representative from the Masons came with the blueprints for their plans. And afterwards, we discussed and went over the application. And we actually denied the application with a recommendation that he work with the Central Maine Growth Council, because what they were asking for funds didn't really meet the criteria of the facade program. So we've made the recommendation that he speak with Garvin Donegan and for other funding opportunities that can help them. The other thing that happened that day was Garvin had prepared a PowerPoint presentation so that we could see how a waterfront plan is developed. As you know, the comprehensive plan says that Fairfield should have a waterfront plan, and we have none.
Right.
So we went through the presentation and the process of developing a plan, and our actions, our next meeting will focus on actions to be taken in order to start the process of interest? Will there be another survey? What will the public, when will the public get involved? What will the role of the Economic Community Development Committee be? What water frontage will we be focusing on? We also know that KV-COG is on board with assisting us with any GPS mapping. The third item is the business-to-business showcase. Will take place this year on October 19th. It's a Tuesday, and we will be there. So hopefully we'll have a lot to share with people as they come through. And that's it.
Very good. Any other committee reports? There being none, we'll move on to the fifth order of business. Consent agenda. These items are considered routine or standard business and therefore will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussions of these items unless a council member so requests prior to consideration of this portion of the agenda, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered next on the agenda. All right, the first, yes.
Since the first one, 21-106, I wasn't here for the council meeting. Can we vote on that separately outside of this consent agenda?
Yes, I would say that that would be proper. So we'll move that down to the, top of the sixth order of business. Okay, so the one would be item 21-107, which is that the town council hereby approves the treasurer's warrant number 12 general fund in the amount of $159,069.02, not limited to but including health and liability insurance, motor vehicle, and Maine Bond Bank.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carries full. All right, so then we will move now to item sixth order of business, and we will move to item 21-106, which is ordered that the Fairfield Town Council hereby waives the reading of and accepts the minutes for meeting 2021-13 held on July 28, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, changes? All in favor? Abstained?
Usually remember to move that too, so my apologies, I forgot that you weren't here.
That was my fault, too. I missed that completely.
That's what I got before you started voting.
All right, moving on now to item 21-108, which is to take action on the following items of business as read by Council Chair. Ordered that the Town Council hereby approves an annual waste disposal permit for Sappy North American Incorporated landfill facility located at company-owned land off of Route 201 in the town of Fairfield.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? None. Carries full. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You guys too.
Yep.
Yep, stay cool.
We'll try, we were in here.
Item 21-109, ordered that the town council hereby adopts updates to the town personnel policy and authorizes the town manager to sign memorandums of understanding within Fairfield's labor unions adopting the addition of Juneteenth holiday.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
So that gives us the 15 days of holidays for the town employees.
I think it's now 14.
15 floating holiday.
15.
Yeah.
15, oh, including the floater.
Floating holiday.
Yes.
Yeah, and the floating holiday, the way that works, that just gets added in as a vacation day, but, yeah, that's what that does.
Okay. Anything else? All in favor? Opposed? None. Item 21-110, ordered that the town council hereby signs the warrant for special town meeting municipal election to be held on November 2nd, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? There being none, all in favor? None opposed. Moving to item 21-111. Ordered that the town council hereby appropriates the sum of $500,000 to be taken from the undesignated fund balance to reduce the amount to be raised from taxation for the 2021-2022 fiscal year as per annual town meeting warrant Article 31.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. There being none, all in favor?
Wait,
None
I actually
opposed.
have some discussion for you.
Yeah.
I have some
Pause,
questions.
pause.
Okay.
Backtrack.
So you were given a spreadsheet this evening.
Yes.
That shows you a possible markup for the mill rate projection and for the commitment. We're not quite finished yet with everything for calculations. There's a few things left to be done. One of them actually is the finalized value for the Sappy landfill. But but there's a couple other things that they're still working on, and we'll hopefully have the rest of the numbers within the next week or so. So interestingly enough, when we put this budget together, of course, we had put in this article to allow you to raise up to $500,000 from the undesignated fund balance. This was in order to keep taxes in balance with increases that we had and revenues and those sort of pieces. Since then, there's been a substantial change to the revenue sharing projections. They were at $750,000 when we put the budget together this spring, but now, in keeping with the changes that have happened with the governor's biannual budget, revenue sharing has been put to 4.5% this year instead of the 3.75 it was last year, which means we are in line. Current projection is to receive $1.1 million in revenue sharing, not the $750 we budgeted. So we never budget the full amount of the projections because, again, it's a projection and you don't know, and if you don't collect it, then you can compromise your tax commitment. So we're currently using the number of $950,000, which is a safe number, and using more than what we thought we were going to get. And so as of right now, the way the numbers look, you don't need to use anything from the undesignated fund balance. And again, this is as of right now, this minute, this window. Any of these values change that could change this window. If you use nothing from the undesignated fund balance, you have the opportunity to potentially drop the mill rate to 22. It's currently at 22.3. So you have a couple of different options that you could do. You could say you don't use any from undesignated fund balance and the mill rate is what the mill rate is. You could say use enough from the undesignated fund balance to put the mill rate at 22. Use enough from the undesignated fund balance to keep the mill rate exactly the same. But certainly you do not need, as a council, to use the full $500,000 from the undesignated fund in order to maintain. In fact, if you use the full amount of the $500,000, you probably would have to drop a mill and a half. And remember, we're still working on trying to ensure that our undesignated fund balance has a good balance in it.
What does it have right now?
And we used $700,000 last year. It currently has, you wait just 1 minute, I'll show you that, I'll tell you that. It was in our town report. We put it on our revenue tab. We don't have our current undesignated fund balance as of June 30 this year because we won't have that number until our audit is done. But basically what you had available to use after the June 30, 2020 fund balance was $4,720,043. The required amount for 3 months of operation for the average of last year was $3,070,840. In the 2021 commitment, you used $700,000 to offset property taxes, which left an available amount to be used of $949,203. So using $500,000 was going to bring that little bit extra of a cushion that you have down substantially. I'd like to see us eventually set a goal in which we try to maintain 6 months instead of 3 months worth of undesignated fund balance. If you remember, we discussed this a few times this spring with the pandemic and when we were closed and we were unable to collect revenues, just exactly how important this undesignated fund balance cushion is. So you have some options. But I certainly wouldn't sit here today. If I was to put the budget together today, I would never have used $500,000 from undesignated fund balance, knowing what I know about revenue sharing, because you don't need to use that much. So it's kind of up to you as to what you would like to do.
Are we going through assessment next year too? Because I thought we
Meaning?
were going through like an assessment for the property taxes or something,
You mean like a revaluation?
reval, yeah.
No. No, not at this time. So what we will probably have to do is a bit of a adjustment throughout our cost tables, simply because of the fact that our current municipal assessment ratio is 87%. So like one of the things that folks are going to notice this year when they receive their tax bill, instead of $25,000 exemption for the homestead, you're only going to receive $24,000 because we're not at 100% of assessment. So when you're not at 100% of assessment, that affects everything from what you receive for your veterans exemption, your homestead exemption, all of those pieces. So we do not have the funds for a reval saved. We're currently only about halfway there in order to do one of those.
Because I thought in 2022 we was going through a reval.
No.
So I thought I read that somewhere.
I'm not sure where that would have been from, but no. So what will happen is now, because currently the market, the real estate market's kind of crazy, and when the state does your assessment ratio, it's based upon your deviation from current assessed value in your tax rolls and sale prices, the market. And so what's happening is there's a lot of properties here in town and all over the community that are selling for 100% more than what they're assessed at. So when the main revenue comes in and does our assessment ratio, and they start looking at the fact that you have a home assessed for $100,000, but it sold for $200,000, well then that makes your ratio 50%. And then they start doing that average. So when you get to 70% or less, that can trigger an automatic demand that you have a reval done. We don't think that it will trigger the state to say you have to have a reval if we're below 70 this year, simply because of the fact that we're not alone. It's happening in every municipality all across the state, to everybody everywhere. So what ends up happening is that you may have to go in and take a look and say, say your home site, which is usually the first 1 to 4 acres of your property, is assessed at a particular amount, and then the next 5 to 10 acres are assessed at a different dollar value. So maybe the first 1 to 4 acres needs to be adjusted. Maybe they're not worth $9,000 anymore. Maybe they're worth $12,000. And don't hold me for any of these numbers. I'm just giving you examples. So those are the kind of things you can do. So then what happens is, because you have to treat people equally and fairly when you tax them, we could go into the cost tables and say the first 1 to 4 acres is now worth $12,000 an acre, make one adjustment in the computer, and it will instantly put that across the board to every single property in the town in our system. So that is considered legal. What you can't do is say, okay, this house is worth $100,000, it just sold for $200,000, I'm going to go change the value to $175,000 and not touch any of the surrounding properties around it. That's considered spot assessing, and you can't do that within the state of Maine. It's not allowed. So we may have to make some adjustments, but until the market settles down a little bit and we have an opportunity to really analyze those sales, is it because of the craziness that's in the real estate market, or are they legitimately worth more? We're not going to know that answer yet. Yep. But I don't know where you would have read that we were doing a reval in 2022, because that's not even on the radar. We don't have no money.
Yep.
So I have a question.
Sure.
We had passed the 500,000 at the town meeting.
Up to.
The difference is only going to be 0.3% on our value, right? That money, though, could go to help make us healthier in the undesignated fund balance. So I'm kind of thinking right now just to leave it at 22.3, not make any changes, especially since we're still under the pandemic. I don't know.
I don't know. I would prefer to go down to 22.
It's, that .3 though, it's, how much of a difference is it?
It depends on how much your house
What is it,
is
like-
worth.
$3.
Maybe-
Point three on 100,000 is going to be
3,000?
$300?
$3,300?
$30.
30.
$30.
$30
Because
on
it's
100.
.0003.
Okay, so $30 on 100,000.
Yeah. I mean, we're not losing a lot of money, but at least we're reducing
But some.
the level a
But
little
it's
bit.
it's a lot for some.
I think, so some of these adjustments, I'm currently thinking, and the reason why I mentioned about, setting keeping in mind that you would like the mill rate to be set at a particular dollar amount and allowing us to use up to what we need to from undesignated funds. So say that there's a value drop, because one of the reasons why the landfill hasn't been appraised yet is because we're waiting on some paperwork from them. And if that comes in with a change in value because of cell closures, then the value drops. And therefore, that value decrease ultimately has an effect on what the mill rate is and what you have to use to calculate to get that number. So we're kind of thinking right now, worst case scenario, maybe it's $200,000 from the undesignated fund with a mill rate set at .22. At 22, to give you still a really probably 2.5% overlay. Worst case scenario.
That sounds good.
So if we can do something like that, so if you wanted to vote to say, use up to, no, let's see, how could you word that?
It's a friendly
Yeah,
amendment.
you could use up to $200,000 from the undesignated fund to ensure that the mill rate is 22.0 with an overlay in the range of 2.5%. Does that work?
Which is a difference of 2.9 right now. That's
Right,
what
I
the
mean, that's where it
paper's
is right
saying,
now.
it's 2.9.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So if I go back.
all right, so I'll make a friendly amendment.
Because if you go, you take a look, let me just put it back up so folks at home can see it too if they want to. So if you see, right now, the way these numbers are set, okay, and this yellow box that's on the screen, the mill rate is set at 22, and it shows you what your overlay is at the very bottom, which right here, it's 2.9, and I don't think it's going to be that much, because there are some little adjustments that we know that are coming. And that's within the blue box, you see there's $0 in the undesignated fund. So if we get all said and done, and the assessors have all the numbers they need, right down to the penny, and we can set the mill rate at 22, but still keep a healthy overlay at 2.5%, we still may not need to take any from the undesignated fund balance. Or what you might find is that we need to take 50,000, 100,000. And remember, anything that's in that overlay that is not used for abatements goes right back to the undesignated fund balance, goes right back in. Sometimes people say, why do you put 50 in just to know that you're going to have 50 left over? Well, the reason for that is because if you don't and you have an abatement, you're not going to have enough. And then what you got to do is you got to recommit in order to cover that abatement needs. So that's why.
Yep.
So I'll make a friendly amendment that the town council hereby appropriates up to $200,000 to be taken from the undesignated fund balance to reduce the amount to be raised from taxation for the 2021-22 fiscal year as per annual town meeting warrant Article 31. And this is to ensure an overlay of 2.5%. And to bring our tax mill down to 22.
That's the goal. Let's hope we make it.
The friendly amendment, Michael, you were the second.
I wasn't I? I would have to second that, wouldn't I?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion?
At the end of the day, I don't think $30 or $60 is going to amount to much for the average taxpayer in the town of Fairfield. And I think it would have been more appropriate for us to
achieve a greater undesignated fund balance for future issues that may arise, but we'll see where the dollars land.
Exactly.
But I'm not comfortable taking the risk.
Any more discussion?
I'm also thinking it's already been voted on by the townspeople,
For 500,000.
500,000. So in a sense, for me, it's a compromise.
Well, for an up to.
We're up to,
Right.
rather than the
We could still
500.
have up
Exactly.
to 500,000, is
Right.
what we do with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can only have up to 500,000 to offset property taxes.
Yes.
Right.
So we're still not using up to 500,000.
No,
Nothing's
No,
changed in
you're
the terms, in the, I mean, for what we're voting on, nothing technically changes. We're just not using up to the
Right,
500,000.
you're only using up to 200,000.
Right, so nothing's
Right.
changed.
Nothing's really
So-
changed.
So do we really need to do a friendly amendment?
Yes.
We do, okay.
No.
This is the reason why you needed to do something. Because what could happen is, if you vote to use up to $500,000 for the tax commitment, we could go back to the office tomorrow, and the assessor could use the full $500,000 to offset property taxes. That's why we needed more direction. Where do you want to go? Because while we use that, and it'll go right back to the undesignated fund balance, because that boosts your revenue, that changes what your mill rate can be. Because the mill rate in this calculation, okay, so you see on the screen, it has a minimum
Yeah.
and it has a maximum. And if I was to put, and I'll show it to you, 500,000 in here, it changes that minimum and that maximum. And that's why you need direction as to how much you want to use and what is the goal. Is the goal to just use the 200,000, or is the goal to keep the mill rate close to where it is? What you want to avoid is, say, we do this and you set the mill rate at 20.5, and then next year, oh, well, come to find out that revenue sharing projection that we thought you were going to have gets taken away again, and so now what you've done essentially is you've dropped your mill rate way down, and then the following year, you're going to have to bounce your mill rate way back up.
Again. Yep.
And so what happens with all of that, especially folks who pay their property taxes through their mortgage, it also takes their mortgage payment and shifts it up and down, up and down. So what you always want to do is try to provide stability. You want to do mindful budgeting so that hopefully what you can do is find revenues that allow you to gradually bring it down, that you know it's sustainable. We're in the process of trying to reduce property taxes, which is what we're slowly working on, or at least sustaining them so that they're not jumping. This revenue sharing piece is wonderful. We've always said we need it in order to bring taxes down. And like I said, it's going to be great because you're not going to use nearly as much undesignated fund balance as we originally thought we were going to have to when we went into this budget process. If we hadn't received this increase, you most certainly would have probably had to use almost the full amount of that $500,000
To lower the mill rate,
to maintain the mill rate.
to maintain the mill rate, yes.
Yes. So this is, you're actually using the revenue sharing that has come in. You'll still be able to build up that undesignated fund balance. And as soon as the commitment is done, we'll make sure we report to you how much was actually used to lower that. The problem is that when the mill rate gets set within the next week or so, the council meeting isn't sitting there, and we don't want to have to call a special council meeting in order for you then to do the approval when the paperwork's all finished. So, because we're actually trying to get it done early last year, would we commit, it wasn't until end of September, I think it was, so
Right.
we're working on it. We're going to get it there.
Yep. Okay. Any more discussion? All right. All in favor?
See where they fall.
None opposed. Item 21-112, order that the town council hereby considers and authorizes the town manager to sign and enter the town of Fairfield into a one-year ground lease contract extension option, amendment number 1, in the amount of $2,000 with Maine RSA number 1 Incorporated, DBA US Cellular.
So moved.
Second.
All right, that's on the
So,
contract that we have on the tower that is going up by the Public Works Garage that we
voted.
approved many years ago.
2 years
2 years ago.
2 years
2 years
ago.
ago, and it's
Yeah.
due to expire next month. And the way that it is written is that it automatically expires in September of 2021, I can't remember the date, unless they've started construction. And they just finally finished receiving their final permits.
Right.
So while construction is coming, and will be coming in the next couple of months, they do not believe it will have started by the time the deadline comes. And then once construction starts and they're there, we actually receive $1,300 a month for them to have this 100 by 100 foot location.
Are they building the tower where that building was?
No, where
With the hockey
the,
field.
where the
The old
ice
hockey.
rink was.
Yeah, the old ice rink was.
And how far up does this tower go?
I can't
All the
remember.
way to the top.
Well, that's a good thing then.
I can't remember.
Wow.
To the top.
I can't remember. I can't remember how tall it is.
All the way.
They've already been through the planning board for their permitting piece for that, so.
Yeah, somebody had asked at the planning board meeting, I believe, if they needed to have some kind of a beacon on the tower itself, and no, they don't, because they're not up that
They're not
high.
up that
It's not
But
that
that still
high.
didn't tell me
Yeah,
how high the
So I
tower
think,
was.
so some of the newer ones along the interstate that are much shorter, it's not like the old cell towers that went straight up into the sky for,
Right.
500 feet. The much shorter, stouter ones, I believe it's along that lines, but I can't remember its exact height. I can get it, though, because we have it in the permit application.
See, if it's in an airline route, it has to have a beacon.
Right.
That's
And if it's
why.
over a certain height.
So when did they expect to start construction?
Like, I think October.
October.
Yeah, they really were just going to miss it. So they plan to start this fall. So it's interesting the way that US Cellular works. Evidently, they go out and they start the permitting process on all of their tower locations that they want everywhere. And they never know, every municipality is different for their permitting process. Plus, there's an FCC permitting process and all of that, and they never know how long the permit process is going to take for these cell tower construction projects. So what they don't do is they don't automatically set the money aside ready to go for the construction process. So they don't start that until all the permits are complete. And this permit process just finished within the last 30 days. So he said now it's at the point where you ask US Cellular for the money, they go through their process, he has another 30 days, they have the money, then they go out to bid, they start construction. So they anticipate construction to definitely start by this fall, but it wasn't going to be before this deadline.
So the lease is, I'm trying to remember 2 years ago, the lease was like for 99,
It's 30 years.
30 years?
It's 30 years. But then renewable for like another 30
Yeah.
years. And then it does change substantially. Once construction starts, like I said, it's $1,300 a month for that location. And remember, it is going where the old ice rink was. However, the funds for this, half of the lease every year and every month will go into a fund for a new rink construction. So that we were putting money aside for all of that to replace that area and to do something down in the Fairfield complex as opposed to right behind Public Works.
Yep.
Safer, more secure location.
Okay.
This is saying in here that they don't exceed 200 feet.
Oh,
Yeah, and I don't even know as if it's that tall.
that US Cellular commercial with the girl climbing up,
Yes.
seems like she's going a very long way up. But then again, that's TV.
Probably going to the top.
Going all the way to the top.
Maybe my cell phone will be working.
There you go.
This is also possible. I think we might even get service in Fairfield.
It'll improve our broadband capability.
Yes. Any more discussion? All in favor? Carries full. Moving on now to the seventh order of business, which is council workshop and other business. All right, number one on there is to discuss the proposed updates to the fire prevention and protection ordinance and town council administrative policy fee schedule, which everybody got a
I'm just trying to find it.
got a paper on.
Yeah, we
Yeah, I got it right here.
All right, there's a few changes in there. which moves down to section 5.4, gated properties. 5-4.1, gated properties leading to a building or structure, whether occupied or not, shall have a fire department access box or a padlock for the purpose of emergency access by emergency services. NFPA 1 Fire Code 18.2.2.1.
So with all our solar coming in, Michelle, that means they have to have a firebox.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Spots,
a,
so
well,
that they can
and,
access their gates.
right, if you look just
Yeah.
below that, a 5-4.2, solar and wind farms with lock gates, access shall have a fire department access box, padlock for the purpose of emergency access by emergency services.
And we already have that conversation with them anyway. Like, there's situations that have already been lined up. This just now puts it in the policy
Okay,
as
so I'm
part
just
of
wondering, too,
regular
because I know we
fire.
discussed it with the
Yeah.
one in the landfill.
Yeah.
So that's incorporated in their, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so this just takes what's in the existing National Fire Code and actually puts it in our policy.
Okay.
Because we already do these.
So the other ones that are out there have this already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I believe they do. Because that's one of the big issues that we've always had with these locations, is to make sure that we have access to be able to
To
get
get
into
in and
them.
out.
So that while, you think about the fact that you probably get a fire truck through a chain link fence probably pretty quickly, but the damage that it causes to the truck and then the fence, and then, of course, if it's a solar field, the damage that's caused to the field
You might-
before you get to the fire on the other side of
Plus it
it.
might be electrified too.
It's currently within their best interest to
Yep.
ensure that we have the ability to quickly get through.
Yeah, and then if you look up on page 2, underneath there, it's got recovery of actual cost related for replacement or repair of damage or destruction of equipment and/or personal protection gear beyond the control of the operator/user.
All right.
And this is for insurance purposes, so you know how we bill insurance companies for calls that we go on that service out-of-town residents? We actually had a set of turnout gear that was damaged due to stuff that was leaking from a vehicle and a call they went to, and we were not, because it wasn't part of our policy, we're not able to recover the cost from the insurance company for those costs associated with that, so.
Anybody got anything they want to add to that, or? Oh, okay. Then, moving on to discuss the Spirit of America Award presentation to the Fairfield VFW Post 6924 and auxiliary.
John, did we want to talk about the schedule fee?
Fee schedule.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. We can, if somebody wants to talk about it.
That was the piece.
Can you read it?
So what's
The
the,
cost, reimbursement.
Oh, that was just the
Yeah, it's
cost
just
that
the
was
cost.
put in
That's just,
here?
the yeah.
Okay, so other
There
than
really
that,
wasn't
there
any-
isn't.
so it's nothing
We would have-
There really isn't
increased
anything
on
in
this?
it. No.
No, it's just we are putting in a line that says a cost associated with reapproval.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
the
in here
public
somewhere.
hearing fee?
Yeah.
No.
No.
The part that says equipment, PPE, damage,
Yeah.
loss, destroyed.
Yes.
Right.
Yep,
Actual cost of replacement per inch.
yep, that
Yes.
line right there.
Okay.
Okay, because it was, all right, I looked at that in the public hearing, it was italic, and it was like,
Yeah, no.
okay.
What was that? What was that one? All right, so I'll go back to number 2, which is discuss the Spirit of America Award presentations at the Fairfield VFW, Post 6924 and auxiliary.
So that was from the town meeting.
What are we discussing?
We're discussing,
Typically,
do we
the
want to award them the Spirit of America Award?
We usually do the award at town meeting,
Yeah,
and we didn't have an open town meeting.
we didn't have an open town meeting.
And in order for us
so-
to get gold status for the Spirit of America Award, we're supposed to present them with the award at a public event. So we don't get silver status at the Spirit of America Award. So do you want to invite them to a meeting so to do the presentation, or are you fine with taking the silver status? Because they already know they got it, so.
I don't know, I think we need to
I think it'd be nice to
maintain the gold
present them.
status.
Bring 'em?
Yeah,
Right, bring them in and we'll.
Bring 'em in.
Do we get extra money for having gold status?
Of course.
It's
I don't know, you'll have to ask the county, it's their award.
I'm going to go with probably not.
Probably not.
Just a gold star.
And the
Oh,
county
instead of
said
a
they
silver
didn't
star,
know
we
if
get
they
a
could
gold
do
star.
an in-person
Exactly.
event this year.
Yeah, they don't know if that they're going to do an in-person event. So the county doesn't know if they're going to do an in-person event this year either.
Probably not.
But you could invite them to a meeting and give them their actual
Yep.
presentation.
I think that's always nice to be able to present something like that.
Okay.
So
we
in
can do
other
that.
words, 100 years from now, nobody's going to care if it was gold or silver? No? Okay.
I didn't even know there was a differentiation,
No, neither did I.
Yeah.
and I've got one.
There is.
Are you going to worry about that 100 years from now?
I might. Might be a concern. but I
We've
don't
gotten
know.
silver for a number of years because they didn't realize we did the presentation at town meeting.
Right.
Oh,
And they didn't go back and give
Go
us
back and
gold,
give
so
us,
it
yeah.
doesn't matter.
I remember that.
But we do have folks that do great services in our community, and it's good to publicly
Yes, it
acknowledge that,
is.
so.
Yeah.
Definitely the recognition is important for those
Yes.
doing the work.
I agree.
But we will ensure to invite them to an upcoming meeting. We'll coordinate with them and get that
Yeah,
stuff done.
that'll be good.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other council business? Stephanie?
Gregory's is incomplete.
Correct. Thank you. What would you like to do with Gregory's disposal in their application for their
Right.
landfill, their transfer station
I think
permit?
we should invite Gregory, Kyle in to just discuss it and,
Oh, yeah, I agree. I'd like to know what their plans are. I know I've got people asking me, is there going to be an odor? Will they be able to see it from the interstate?
especially when the PAL's going to start pretty soon, and they want construction this fall.
Right.
How will that affect?
Well, you're always going to be dealing with construction and PAL,
Yeah.
as long as we have sports fields smack dab in the middle of an industrial park.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, because that's always going to happen, but how are they going to coordinate
Safety.
around that? and-
Yeah.
and that
Did they
kind of
have a plan for the building? I'm curious exactly how far in does their driveway go?
stuff? It's over 1,000 feet
Over 1,000 feet?
is what they would be constructing. So the current conversation is that they will be constructing roughly about 1,000 feet of road, and then some.
Yeah.
We're working with them with road standards to make sure that it's up to par for what we need. Some agreement about where they start, which would be where the asphalt currently ends, and going up through, some potential, I know that there's been some conversations, similar questions from the planning board, because they have had a preliminary planning board meeting, and Kyle and his engineers at St. Germain that are in charge of this project have said that they're more than willing to come in and discuss this with the town council. They're more than happy to answer those questions and get that, all out in the open and answer as many as they can
So-
and go forward.
So we got a chance of 2 construction projects going on, not at the same time, but within the same.
Quite a few,
Yeah.
actually.
On the other side of the pond and this side of the pond.
Yeah.
So there's the there's the fire training facility, there's this facility, there's also the solar facility that's already permitted, that's just a little further up, that will be using that same access road.
Yep.
That will go even further around all the way to the town line.
Right.
And then there's the 4 lots in between where this facility would be going and BDS Tire, which BDS Tire is under construction for their second phase of their project, building their building. And then
Yep.
whatever's going to happen in those 4 lots in the middle, if anything. So there's lots of construction happening out
Yeah.
there.
So where's the
Should-
hockey rink gonna go?
So there's another 9 acres
Okay.
that was given to,
Further.
so basically, if you were driving down in, and if you're looking at the football field, to the right of that, there's another 9 acres
Okay.
that has been given to the municipality.
Around
Right.
soccer.
So where this goes, this
so
road
the-
goes, in fact, if you go down now, you can kind of see like the ATV road that folks are using out there for access. That's kind of about where it would be.
With,
It's not quite where it would be, but.
Baseball field, you get the soccer and the baseball field. It's up to that side.
And it actually veers off before that, it's before that.
Okay.
Yep.
It's literally to the side of the football field.
Now, if we're going to have them come in on that, should we do that under a public hearing?
Or do you just want to do it as an informational meeting and not an official public? So public hearing comes with legal requirements for advertising, that kind of stuff. There's really no
Okay.
need to get them to do a public hearing if you just want to meet with them. What I need to know, because the deadline for the Department of Environmental Protection's request for in a public hearing, that clock started ticking about a week ago, and you only have 20 days to do that. But what they will do is say we don't go through that process, we let them continue with their application process with DEP. They still have to do local permitting stuff with us here. There's still things that they need to do. You do your process here, just invite them in. We'll have a top of the meeting, public informational. What would be really nice is if we had some questions from the council that we could submit to them beforehand. That way they could answer those questions, everybody sees the same thing, and do all of that stuff. And then if we have questions that stem from that, I can easily submit questions to the DEP and get them to get us some of their environmental protection answers. We can easily do that.
All right.
My feeling is I'd like to have an informational meeting, but where we're dealing with a trash situation. I'd just as soon have DEP do it, because that's their bailiwick.
Right.
It's not mine.
Another question, Michelle, any word from PAL on this? Because I know you contacted PAL when it first came out, no word.
Nothing major.
No.
I know that they had, I think they were listening into the planning board process. Some folks on the planning board, I think, had talked to some PAL reps. And I think there'll be some questions that come out of their official public hearing process, but nothing really major. PAL understands that they do have a facility that is in the middle of an industrial park.
Right.
And as long as safety is top on everybody's mind,
Yeah, I'm just
then
wondering too,
that's where they're...
if they're aware and they notified the parents of the children, there's possibility of construction, so for safety purpose, they can just tell when they sign up, say, well, oh, by the way, there's going to be construction going down an industrial road. We thought of just bringing to your attention,
Yeah.
maybe some safety issues.
Yeah.
So, that's what I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they've done that or
Okay.
not, so. Okay, so I have my direction. We will schedule a informational meeting here with the town council. We don't need to do the DEP's formal public hearing process, and we'll just send DEP some questions when we're all said and done if we don't have the answers to them. I'll get
That
that set up
sounds-
for you as soon as we can.
Sounds reasonable.
Hopefully we can get that for your next meeting. That will help them too, I think, probably with their permitting process with the planning board. So
Right.
We'll get that
Okay.
set. As long as they can make your next one, we'll do that.
Sounds reasonable. Anything else?
I'd just like
Definitely.
to remind our citizens, with schools starting up, kids on the road, driving and walking, to take care, slow down especially, and watch out for those big yellow buses.
When it starts. Michael?
I'm all set, thank you.
Peter?
I just want to tell everyone why I wasn't here last council meeting. I had a medical emergency at the last minute, and it took me away from my council duties. So that's why I wasn't around. And I got some other things too. I attended the Grange open house for the new parking area, August 7th. I actually stayed out there to help them out after my little incident I had, and to talk to them and see everyone, greet everyone and everything else. It was a good day, and we had about maybe 50 to 60 people show up.
Yep.
So, and also too, the Grange is having a public supper this Saturday, August 28th at 4 p.m. So that's a good time there too. And that's it.
Very good. Mark?
I'm all set, thank you.
You're all set? And I'm all set. All right, so the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, September 8th, 2021, to be held as a hybrid meeting via Zoom in council chambers at 6:30 p.m. At this time, we will recess and sign all documents that require the signature of council members.
So moved.
Second.
We are recessed.